All right, well, welcome back to the SURGECast. We have been off for a number of months, but we are releasing a new episode today. Who's excited?
Me.
Yeah, I know Atticus is excited. We are going to launch our October Surge curriculum theme, which is What Are You Afraid Of? And we have asked a very time-honored guest, which is Chad Boyd, adult leader extraordinaire.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. And he is going to help us answer our question for today, which is what?
What was the time you felt most scared?
Tell us about the scariest time of your life. Yeah, you got it.
So I thought about this a little bit, and I actually brought a couple different topics with me and things that kind of hit me, because depending on where you are in your life really can hit you with life sometimes, right? And so probably the first time I can remember being truly scared and really afraid was when I was younger, when your parents are fighting and stuff like that. My household, there was a lot of conflict sometimes in my house, and that could get scary. So that was probably the first time I truly felt scared, or was afraid, because I didn't know what was going to happen. But then bigger things kind of happened in life than just those minor altercations like that. So probably the first true time that I was really scared that something was going to definitely bad was going to happen, or that I could be in big trouble was my summer before my junior year of high school. I was hanging out with people that I normally didn't hang out with. And it was after football practice, and there were 4 of us in a truck. And we were just cruising around, doing things we probably shouldn't be doing, having fun, driving too fast, that kind of thing. And like I said, these people, was the first time I ever really hung out with them. These were not my normal friends. It was the last time I really hung out with these people. But I was in a really serious car accident with them. Very serious. We were going around 70 miles an hour, and I can still relive that moment a little bit, because I was truly scared to the point where I fainted. I passed out before the accident actually happened, because I was so afraid of what was about to happen. I thought I was done. And the person we hit passed away. There was no reason that the 4 of us should have walked away from that accident. I fractured my 6th vertebrae in my spine after that. So that was probably the first time that I was truly scared. I wasn't sure what was going to happen after that. If I was ever going to get to play sports again, my life was going to be normal again after that. So that was probably the first real scary moment for me.
Did that incident change anything in your faith at all?
Definitely did. The very first thing that I actually did when I was able to get out of my house and go see and do things with people was went out to Lake Bloomington to somebody's house that was a youth leader here, and it was a youth group that night. That was like the first thing I actually got to do that was outside and regular again. That year I didn't get to play football because of my injury and stuff like that, but I had my church family that really helped support me through all of that. They were the ones that were coming to visit me. Like I said, the people that I was with, I never really heard from any of those people again, kind of thing. And so you find out who really truly cares about you when stuff like that happens. So that was, as a teenager, it was pretty heavy, and the church family helped pull me together after that. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got Corinne and Brian and Atticus here with us today, and I'm interested to know, maybe you can give us a short follow-up to what Chad shared about maybe a time in your life when you were really scared, if you can think of that. Maybe just talk about what fear does to you as a Christian. How does it feel in your heart with your faith whenever you're truly afraid of something?
So there was a time when I was younger where I was at home with my grandma. She was babysitting me because my parents were out. I think they were going to a movie or something. And my grandma was on the couch in our living room, and I was on the computer, just watching Netflix. And I just remember hearing like a bunch of coughing and stuff like that from the living room, and I was like, "Hey, are you okay?" To my grandma, and she was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." It's like trying to like force down coughs and stuff like that, and I was like, "Are you sure?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And eventually it just got like to the point where it was like constant, so I was getting like really scared. So I just started like texting my parents consistently, or like over and over again, and being like, "Hey, I don't think grandma's okay. I need you guys to come home." And they were like, they didn't answer for at least like 10 minutes, and then they answered. Not 10 minutes that they didn't answer, I was like super scared. I didn't know whether or not to call 911 or not, and I was just too little to really understand what was happening. So I didn't really feel like I knew what to do if my grandma was having a heart attack, and she did have a heart attack. But the doctors were able to like help her out, because once my parents responded to my text, they came home and were like super thankful that I was like texting them and everything, and they rushed my grandma to the hospital. And I'm not sure she had a heart attack then, but I do remember like later in her life she did have like at least 2 heart attacks. But that just was a really scary point in my life where I really wasn't sure if I'd ever like be able to like see my grandma healthy again. And I did, and then it got worse, but you know, it was just a really scary point in my life.
I guess I've told this story a couple times, but I don't usually tell the full thing, because, you know, I got COVID, and it wasn't that bad, because you know, I'm at the age where it's like viruses and stuff don't really affect you as much. You know, it's a prime time where you're not really affected by that kind of thing. But the one thing that was affected was I got like a 103-degree fever, and I was having hallucinations. I didn't even realize it, but like I'm right now I'm questioning what was real or not, because you know, a lot of times I tell it just simplified, but like, you know, I woke up in a cold sweat, you know, because I think I had a nightmare or something. And I just decided that I needed some water because I was super dehydrated. Not sure why. Not usually that dehydrated, but I'm sure it was the COVID. But yeah, my hands are kind of shaking just now from thinking about it. And then see my sock move. I'm not even sure if my sock actually moved, but out comes this spider. It's like, it wasn't very huge, but then, you know, and this is the part where everybody is like, oh, that spider growled at you, you know, but like, you know, I was kind of dizzy because you know, and I was hot, and you know, I was getting a little bit of I forget what it's called, but like the room was kind of like, you know, swirling a little bit, and then the spider just jumps on me, and I swear I heard it like, and it is kind of funny, but at the time it was very scary. I was like, it growled like a lion, like seriously, it went like, "Arr," you know, and I was scared. I was super scared, but then it just jumped off and it ran underneath my dresser, and I was so scared. In fact, I think I had or have arachnophobia, so I was so scared I didn't sleep in my room for 4 days because I was so scared, and I specifically didn't do it for 4 days because I realized I was having hallucinations, because there's no way that a spider could growl at you like that. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna wait this out, and I'm gonna see if it's still. And I checked under my dresser for like a full hour to make sure that there was no spiders underneath it, because I was so scared. And yeah, that was very, very scary for me. That was only like a year ago, but yeah.
Did you look up later, just like, do spiders growl at all?
I did.
Honestly, that's what I would have done.
I did. I was
Google. Do your thing.
I even looked up how long they live, because I was like, if it's hiding underneath my dresser, and then I got even more scared when I realized that they don't just live for like a couple days; they live for a month. So I was like, I
can't sleep in my bed for
I was, every time I went to sleep, I was like looking over at my dresser, because, man, I hated spiders. I still do.
Yeah, I don't really know if I had like a really scary moment, but it was back in like, I don't know, before COVID. My grandma broke her left arm and ankle, and it was really scary because she was like in her 80s, so we didn't know what was going to happen to her. And she actually she wasn't fine, but she lived for, I think, 2 more years, but she was immobilized that whole time, and it was scary for me because I was at such a young age, and I had no idea like what was happening. I just never like got to see her move again, and she could never do anything else with me, and that was really scary for me.
Yeah, a lot of times the situation and the thing happening isn't actually the scariest part of it. It's everything afterwards and what we do to ourselves thinking about those situations. I heard a while back and I try to remind myself of this on a regular basis, that whatever I imagined, it's never that bad, because I do a real good job of making things, imagining things and spinning them to be a lot worse than they actually are. And a big part of that is, I think, just asking a little bit for some peace. It's tough when life's hard. Other instances, as I get older, things are scary. Some in good ways and some in bad ways. Another really scary moment in my life was finding out I was going to be a dad. All of a sudden I'm responsible for another person, and talk about being afraid. Waking up every day knowing that somebody else counts on you, and you got to keep them alive, right? So that scared me. The world around us, everything happening can be scary, right? Because we don't know, and we put our imagination on top of the reality, and it just makes it worse. And I think asking for grace, praying helps. I highly recommend it in those moments, because you've got a team behind you, the most powerful team that there is, right? We've got to ask for it. So I think that's one of the big things for me. It's realizing that I can ask God for help and take that time to wait for God's answer sometimes and not rush things. And it definitely helps.
Yeah, I really appreciate what you said in the beginning when you were talking to us, Chad, about how it was scary for you growing up in a house where parents were fighting a lot.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of memories of that myself. I just grew up in a house where my parents had a lot of fights, just like a lot of people are nodding. That's something that happens. I remember a lot of nights like being in my brother's bedroom. My 2 brothers and I would be in there and kind of listening to parents yelling and things like that and being really scared. And I have a kind of a follow-up question, because I remember as a kid when that happened, I would be really scared. I would cry a lot. My brothers were really sweet with me and helped me get through that. But later, after the fact, I would maybe tell my mom or talk about it with my brothers again, and they would say, "Oh, Kelsey, everything's going to be okay. Oh, it's going to be fine. You know that. We may fight, but everything's fine." And I remember starting to carry a little bit of shame where my fear was concerned, because I just didn't have enough faith to believe that things were going to be okay, or I just couldn't find it in myself to believe that mom and dad are going to be fine. And I wonder if you have ever had any feelings of shame over things that you were previously afraid of.
Oh, definitely. Like I said, nothing is as bad as you imagine it to be, right? But at that same time, sometimes it's really, really hard to find that, okay, everything is going to work out. Some days can be really, really dark. And I had lots of moments like that, with, especially with my parents, and dealing with that kind of thing. In my relationship with my wife, just feeling guilt over not being honest about something, and carrying that kind of thing, and being afraid to be honest with people, especially with the people that care about you, that have unconditional love for you. That is one of the hardest things that you could ever do, I think. Sometimes it's understanding that you feel this way about something, you're afraid of this, and sharing it with somebody. And finally realizing that you are loved enough to share that, and to have people help you work through it is big. The weight that gets lifted, it's insurmountable. And like I said before, if it's not somebody like that you're in a relationship with, or a parent, there's somebody at the church. But even before all of that, there's just saying a prayer and asking for, who is this person? Because there's a person for you that's going to help you, and that's not going to care about your flaws. They're going to help you with them. So
I think in my situation, I felt ashamed for feeling fear, just because I felt like I needed to be heroic in a way, and like not be fearful and know exactly what to do in that situation. So I felt ashamed that I was afraid and didn't know what to do. And I kind of go about those kind of scary situations, or well, past scary situations since that incident, just like being like, oh, calm down, like everything's gonna be okay, you're gonna get through this, you need to step up, or just something along those lines, just being like, not justifying anything, but just kind of like saying you don't need to fear, stuff like that. And when that stuff happened with my grandma, I kind of like, I prayed every night, for her to get better and everything. But I was young. I really didn't understand like everything about my faith and everything. So I said those prayers, and I was like, okay, that's, it's gonna make everything better. But I kind of thought of it more as like God being a genie, rather than just my father that cares about me and stuff like that. So I was just like praying to him. Sometimes I would pray to him for like friend stuff, or something like that, and I'd be like, okay, now when do I get it? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I really didn't understand my fear, or just like how praying worked or anything like that. So it took me a while to really understand that and be able to work that into my life and work that into how I go about fear.
Yeah, one thing that is really tough to realize as a person is that when something is happening, that it's probably not the first time that it's happened to somebody, but man, does it feel like it. And nobody's going to understand. Nobody's felt like this before. And, and that feeling is tough. And finding somebody that's been through something similar is good, but sometimes that's not possible. But just realizing that you're not alone. We need to remind ourselves of that all of these things have happened to somebody else, and they made it. And we will too. Yeah.
Yeah. I carried a little bit of shame every single time somebody brought it up because, I was like, yeah, I was having hallucinations, but I shouldn't have been scared. I started to get angry too. I started to get angry at the spiders because they were making me scared, and so I started boxing them sometimes. That actually did help me get over the fear a little bit. Yeah, it's because I was shameful. I was ashamed of being scared of such a minute, small animal. That I started, like I found one. I was just lying down. I found one sitting on top of me. I swung it off, and then I just punched it into the ground. And I was like, yeah, that's what you get. I don't even know why I was punching it. I just felt good. It felt like I was getting rid of that. But yeah, it's like I felt ashamed for even being scared of that, even when it's like the most common fear aside from public speaking. It's like why would I be scared of that? I need to stop being scared of that when it's like pretty much everybody else is scared of spiders. So
Yeah, sometimes I feel ashamed when I feel like nobody else feels the same way. Like when I'm in a group of friends and I'm scared about something and no one else is scared, so I'm like, I shouldn't be scared of this, even though sometimes it's pretty valid.
Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about this in Surge in October, so if anyone listening is interested in this topic, I encourage you to be a part of that. But I think we often hear people in the church and Christians and pastors, and this is like something that comes up a lot, is that the words "do not fear" are the most repeated words in the Bible. And I could give you a number, but I don't have a number. But they are the most repeated words in the Bible. And I think that manifests our shame a little bit to know that God has said to people since the beginning of time, do not fear, so many times that when we feel afraid, we feel a little bit of shame, feeling like we might be foolish for being afraid. But I would just encourage anyone to take comfort in knowing that God wouldn't have to say, do not fear, if people were not afraid, which means, just like what Chad said, you're never alone in your fear. And your fear is valid, whether it's a spider or something horrible happening to a loved one, or it's not knowing your fate after a horrible accident, or if it's any number of other fears. You're never alone in that fear, and even if you feel like you're alone, it's still valid to have that fear because your lived experience is real, and nobody can tell you that you didn't go through or you didn't experience what you did experience. I hope somebody takes some comfort in that. Well, we just want to, we'll give a kind of closing couple of remarks here, but we do want to say thank you so much to Chad for coming out and being our guest. And we want to say thank you to Chad for being more so than just our guest, but just exactly who you are to Surge. There's a lot of people in this church and in our ministry that love you very much, so thank you. Thank you for sharing a part of yourself with us.
Wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Oh, there. It's Chad. Chad, are you on? Chad. But as we close up today, we just want you to know that no matter who you are or where you come from, if you feel afraid today, you are not alone. And you can come and seek solace with us and be a part of this ministry that we have built together. You can be a part of this chosen family together. Together. And we will always have a place for you here no matter who you are. So hope you enjoyed it.
Love you.
Love you.